I'd like to begin this evening by thanking our truly incredible cantor, our choir director, Dr. Stanley Wicks, our magnificent choir, all of our truly wonderful volunteers and angels who make our high holy days so holy and uplifting. I want to share a very special shout out as well to our staff. I can't begin to tell you how many 12 and 14-hour days have run up to this very evening, all the all-nighters that were pulled. High holy days are just not supposed to come this early on the secular calendar. But God bless every single one, because here we are. I know that we have folks watching and listening and praying with us in Detroit and Florida, in LA, and I'm sure all places in between. So, Shana Tova, Umtuka to all of you who are joining with us through the magic of the internet. I would also like to welcome Diane Snodgrass, our new accompanist, as we begin what I hope will be a long and very sweet relationship. You know, Diane, I am reminded of another accompanist who was at a similar starting point with a new congregation. And as it turns out, that congregation was in need of a new sanctuary roof. It had been some 20 plus years and the roof could not be patched anymore. The problem was that it would cost $10,000, which the congregation just didn't have. That afternoon, while she was practicing for the evening service, the rabbi had come up to her and mentioned how critical the situation was with the roof. Tonight, he said, I am going to make a pitch from the pulpit to raise funds. And if I'm successful, then we'll be okay. But if not, then know that there might not be a sanctuary for you to play in. I'll need you to be at your very best. And when I'm done, make sure to play something spectacular, something really motivational. Well, that evening, the congregation had gathered, and at the appointed time, the rabbi delivered his sermon. He was eloquent. He laid down stirring gems of Torah and Talmud wisdom. He did so in such a way to bring his plea for funding to a dramatic crescendo. And so he concluded, we need $10,000 to ensure the roof of this sanctuary does not collapse. If you believe in the future of this community, if you believe in supporting the living sanctuary of God in this place, if you will help donate to this critical need, I ask you to stand up now. No one moved. No one stood up. The rabbi felt his heart plunge to his feet. He looked at the cantor. Nothing. He looked at the president. Nothing. And neither one seemed to know what to do next. He looked at the new accompanist, but she had quickly turned her back to the keyboard. Then, to his amazement, the whole room stood up as one. Throughout the entire room rang the stirring melody of Hatikva, and nobody dared to remain seated. So may this be an inspiration for Kol Nidre. I may not be so old as to not remember a time before telephones, but I do remember a time before cell phones and smartphones and personal computers and iPads and Nooks and video games on cell phones and the internet and Skype and texting and Twitter and hundreds of other things that our kids utilize every day and I haven't a clue about. Which in truth is actually one way of saying I may not be so old, but I'm old all the same. Our society is filling with a startling array of new technology. A far cry from an earlier age where the magic of one's imagination and the interaction with a friend or a relative was all that was necessary to make life worthwhile. Now, actually, I'm happy with a lot of the things that our new technology has brought us. As one who happens to love books and still brings out the 50-pound Webster Dictionary to find words, I absolutely adore Google. While there is nothing like opening a volume of Talmud to search out a text, Judaic software makes narrowing down what I am looking for so much easier than using a time-consuming concordance. Hebrew date converters are simply a heaven sent. And when it comes to typing a sermon, compared to the days of writing it out, crossing out lines, recrossing out even worse ideas, and then trying to decipher it all when typing it up with whiteout as my only corrective tool, there is no comparison. For all the time I spend complaining about GPS, I truly like GPS. I love HD technology and Dolby surround sound. I think it's cool that we can program our sprinklers and heat up leftovers in under a minute. And digital memory sticks have it all over the cassette tapes that I used to practice my Torah portion from. And Pandora is the bomb. But like many others that I have talked with, there are some things that I'm not so crazy about. Cell phones are cool in emergencies. When I'm at the checkout counter and realize I've left my wallet at home. Or when I'm at the doctor's office and for the 12th billionth time I have to list out all the medications I take, but I've forgotten to bring the list with me. Or when I'm at the store and I can't remember if she wanted Coke with no caffeine, Coke with no calories, Coke with some calories, or maybe some caffeine, or maybe she just likes some Dr. Pepper. Or when I need a phone number that I can't remember, like when I need to call home. On the other hand, I'd give it all up if it were the only way to avoid the dark side of the smartphone age. From the inane to the truly consequential. On the simply annoying side of things, phones should ring like phones. Why must we be startled to near panic by the Michigan fight song or screams of Alice Cooper or the wail of a tornado siren in California when someone else receives a call? Or for that matter, why must we repeatedly be put on hold while counseling with someone, talking with someone, even trying to make a purchase from someone, while the individual across from us attends to an incoming call they could return after we were through? And yet, this is really simply just an annoyance, a matter of manners. The dark side of the cellular age is really about losing ourselves in the black hole of 21st century narcissism. Everywhere I look, our society seems captivated, if not addicted, to our phones' technologies. Our addiction takes precedence over the needs of others, and our expectations of the world around us centers upon our posts and texts and tweets and how many likes or followers we have or should have, and why aren't they? Our society is rapidly letting go of our real connections to each other. We're losing opportunities to remember how to hold real conversations, to remember how to read human body language, to know how to interact with other living souls. The majority of our relationships are virtual, and we're forgetting that face-to-face relationships still matter, and that it's truly impossible to know and love and interact one-on-one with 2,000 friends. And worse, as our kids age, they won't even have such memories to fall back on. For those over 18, can you remember family car rides? Perhaps they were long rides to some vacation spot, a day trip, or just a short run to fill an errand or to drop you off somewhere. Do you remember how on those trips you fought with your siblings? Do you remember complaining that they were breathing all of your air? Or that they were hogging the entire seat? Do you remember having to get the last word in, or the last punch, or that last snarky jab, saying it under your breath just loud enough to let them know you had said something? Do you remember driving your parents crazy and how they responded? How long their arms seemed to be? Do you remember family games like I Spy, or counting license plates? Or even how, while groaning all the while, you learned the music of your parents' generation because they were in control of the radio? Do you remember carpooling with friends and sharing secret conversations, totally oblivious to the fact that your parents could and were listening to every word? In the moment, they were either wonderful or exasperating times. But wonderful or exasperating, they were filled with the stuff that taught us how to build relationships. They helped us to form bonds with fellow human beings. They were the training wheels for being members of society. Today, the first thing we do in the car is plug in. Little or no conversation, no fighting, and no laughing, while self-absorbed in games or music or the voiceless, faceless conversation of thumbs from the new, excuse the expression, idiot box of the 21st century. Although cutting down on fighting and arguments is not such a bad thing, something is clearly lost. Avoiding fights and arguments, in this case, is not indicative that we're getting along better. It's reflective of the fact that siblings and parents are much less engaged with each other than we used to be, and that we are no longer playing the same role in each other's lives. And it's not just about time in the car. Studies show that spending more time alone in front of our computer screens, far from connecting us to others, is actually making us lonelier than ever. this fusion of distance with intimacy, creates the illusion of community, while in reality we are withdrawing from real contact, substituting virtual worlds for reality, online friends for real friendships. Perhaps it is just a ready stand-in, a panacea for the lack of true relationships that the demands of our schedules today prevent. For the more packed our calendars are, the less time we have for each other. The less time we have for each other, the more we will try to find a substitute for what every human being needs: the true connection. Only this kind of connection leaves us cold and empty. There is no substitute for pure, unadulterated human contact and interaction. And so the problem is not really the technology, it's how we prioritize the things that we put into our days, the time we allot to the most important of them, and the rules we put in place so as not to be distracted from connecting with each other. Dr. Ruth writes, "The one thing you must do in the new year is pay greater attention to the humans next to you than the gadget in your hand. No matter how much you love your phone, it will never hold your hand or make your heart flutter. If you want to have a productive year, if you want to feel the warmth of human contact, if you want to marry or stay married, have children and get the most out of life, put the gadgets down and connect to those around you with your mind and your arms and your heart." In other words, as Rabbi Stuart Weinblatt notes, human relationships are rich, messy, and demanding. They require work and direct ongoing contact and interaction. This is what makes them fruitful and meaningful. Ultimately, our relationships and the challenges that come from them form the texture that weaves the fabric of our lives. To have that meaningful and textured tapestry, we really need to start thinking about giving up one or two of our many daily activities. We need to put aside an errand. We need to pare back our course load. We need to stand against the pressure to work more. And with that time saved, we need to spend more time unplugged with each other. In other words, to maintain our spiritual health in the 21st century, we need to find the time and the means to actually listen and speak with each other, to get back to having more frequent and in-depth conversations, to see the concern or the pain in the other's eyes, to see the joy leaping in their smile, to be at a place where we can truly touch and be touched by human expression and interaction, where we can laugh with each other uninterrupted by non-critical outside distractions. Nothing is so important that it should take precedence over spending the time we need with the most important people in our lives, or saying the things that are most important to say. face to face, panim el panim. Between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we talk a lot about tshuva, turning back to God by turning back to a path of rightful behavior and response. Well, maybe this year we can turn back to each other a little more. Maybe we can stop looking down at the phone and look up at the faces across from us, or instead of into the screen, into the faces of the people in the room. In our conversations, maybe we can learn a little bit about what has been hidden from our understanding because of our distractions. And in truth, it only takes the push of a button or the click of a mouse. We might even learn to appreciate a bit more the people in our lives and what they mean to us and what they provide for us. So start with this. Tonight, in the car, turn off all the cell phones and the iPads and the iPods and the DVD players and even the radio. Well, actually, assuming they're off right now. Yeah. Just don't turn them on. And then together in the car, know that it might actually be awkward at first, which is a sure sign that you need to do this more often. But give it a moment and trust yourselves and have a conversation or sing a song. Make a deal to unplug one day a week, and I would suggest Shabbat. Or 2 hours every day when you're in each other's company. And if tonight you're riding home with your sister or your brother, breathe their air.